Welcome everyone to another lightning talk. A great way to start the day at OASPA today. Last day of the meeting. It's been an incredible couple of days. We, as normal, we have a series of presenters. We've got 9. Today, each presenter has 4 minutes to speak to their slide, and we'll break 3 times for questions. So we're going to go in order of the program. It's advertised on the website. So we're going to go with Rebecca, and then Astrid, and then Dominique. We'll take a break, and then go Matthias, Malavika, Elizabeth, take a break, and then Marcel, Stephanie, and Anna. You please stick to your 4 minutes so that everybody's got as much airtime as the others. And I reserve the right to move your slide if you're taking more than 5 minutes. So Rebecca, I know we're in good hands with you. Let me share my screen. Ruby, can I have access to share, please?
Yes, of course, I'll just get that for you.
Good morning, Rebecca, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm joining you from rural Ireland, so I'm a little bit concerned about my Wi-Fi, but we'll see how it holds up. It seems okay so far.
Sounds like a great place to be. Okay, here we go. And if I go full screen, does that still work? You seeing my screen?
Yes, that works, Jennifer, thank you.
Okay, and then if I go like this, you should have Rebecca's slide. And I apologize, you can't see it that well on my screen, but Bernie and Ruby are posting the links to the poster so you can have a little look yourself. So Rebecca, over to you.
Thanks so much, Jen. So hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Grant. I'm head of data and software publishing at the publisher F1000. I'm talking to you about our poster, which describes a policy development project that we've been working on to support authors in the humanities to share their data openly when they publish articles on our Routledge Open Research platform. As Jen said, I think the poster is a bit tiny, and that's also because it's portrait instead of landscape, so apologies. So Routledge Open Research is a platform which you could think of as equivalent to a journal, which publishes research from education, the arts, humanities, psychology, and social sciences. And it was launched in spring of this year. So across all of our F1000 platforms, including Routledge Open Research, we have strict open data policies which apply to every author. And we expect authors to share all of the research data that they generated or used as part of their study. Not only that, but the data has to be shared openly in an online data repository. It has to be openly licensed for reuse, and it has to be described in a data availability statement, which must be included with the research article. So that type of open data policy is increasingly common across scientific journals, but that's not currently really the case for the humanities. And in some ways that is understandable. Humanities researchers don't often work with the type of quantitative, numerical spreadsheets that are thought of as being data. The inputs or sources used by humanities scholars might include things like archival documents, maps, photographs, oral histories, audiovisual materials, field notes, and humanities scholars don't necessarily think of them as being data. In addition, humanities sources may be held, whether in physical or digital form, by institutions like libraries, archives, or museums. So standard guidance on uploading data to a repository and applying an open license to it would just not be relevant or even possible for many humanities authors. To address the challenges of humanities data sharing, we decided to completely revise and reimagine our open data policy for Routledge Open Research. We started by including a comprehensive description of what we meant by data. That would include sources like archives or museum collections. We also clarified our expectations around sharing this type of data. We don't require authors to re-upload it to a data repository. In fact, we very much discourage that. Really just want them to describe how they accessed it and how other readers might access it too. To make it easier for authors to follow the guidance, we've also included lots of good examples of humanities data sharing, data availability statements and data citations, so they will know what those things look like when they're being asked to add them to the article. Key of our data is data provide data sets findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. If you've ever read them, you'll know that they're really technical, and understanding them can be challenging for authors regardless of their discipline. It's not just humanities authors who might struggle with them. We did want to provide this guidance to our humanities authors though, but to do so, we've tried to make it a bit more straightforward and digestible and provide more practical steps to making the data fair. The guidelines went live on the Routledge Open Research platform when it launched. As I said, that was back in the spring, and our editorial team are available to support any authors who do require additional help with data sharing. So anyone who still isn't sure can access support from our editorial team. And we hope that these changes will really encourage our authors to share rich and diverse data sets, and we welcome any feedback on the guidelines from authors or from interested readers. So if you are interested in taking a look at what Humanities Open Data Guidelines look like, there's a link from the poster, and then maybe if possible, I will add it to the chat as well. So thank you.
Bang on time. Thank you. Well done. All right, let's go to Astrid, please.
Hello, everyone. And my name is Astrid Hoffmann, and I'm joining today from the University Library of Erlangen-Nürnberg in Germany. So our post is about the open source academic publishing suite, or short OS-APS, which is an open source software project. And OS-APS is supposed to help smaller academic open access publishers with limited resources to establish a media neutral XML-first workflow. So this should enable them to publish in various digital formats while still maintaining a high quality in terms of corporate design, so that they can compete more fairly with the larger and commercial publishers. As I said, the approach is a media neutral XML-first workflow. So that means that manuscripts are transformed into XML files right in the beginning of the publication workflow. And the XML file of a manuscript then serves as the single source from which all publishing formats are generated. So with OS-APS, the formats would be PDF, EPUB, HTML, and XML that are possible export formats. And the typesetting is done automatically via the selection of a template. In the picture at the top of the poster, you can basically see how it works. So as a publisher, we have a manuscript that's usually a docx file because Microsoft Word and therefore docx is so commonly used. But we plan to support ODT files as well. That's the format of LibreOffice because LibreOffice is an open source alternative to Microsoft Word. The manuscript is imported, and while this happens, there's an automatic XML extraction from the manuscript. When the import is finished, the manuscript opens up in an editor, and that's basically the transformation part of the picture. And the editor has a very simple interface. It is pretty much what you see is what you get. So you don't need any XML knowledge to be able to make any changes. The elements of the manuscript, such as titles, subtitles, tables, and so on, are usually recognized. However, if anything was not correctly recognized, you can just make adjustments in the editor, and it's also possible to enrich the XML with information that was not in the manuscript. For example, further information on the author, like ORCID number and such. And when this editing process is finished, you can then use the export function to export the manuscript, as I said, as PDF, EPUB, HTML, or XML file. And there is automatic typesetting, which means that the corporate design of the publisher is implemented via a template that you can choose during the export. There are a few pre-designed templates, but publishers can also create their own template with the template development kit, which is also an open source component of the software. And there will be a manual on how to create templates. Small changes in the parameters of predefined templates are really easy to do. However, for the development of a completely new template, you would need knowledge in web programming. There are also some connections to other open source software, open source publishing platforms via plugins, so that other publication processes can be integrated. The platforms are Open Journal Systems and Open Monograph Press for the presentation of publications to the readers, and then also DSpace as a repository software for long-term storage. So that was a brief overview of a workflow with OS-APS. And we basically hope that by the time the software is finished, which will be approximately in January 2023, open access publishers will be able to make good use of the software and be able to publish in a range of formats without either extensive technical knowledge or high expenses or compromising on the design. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And thank you for your attention.
Astrid, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we'll go to Dominique next, please.
Hi, everybody. My name's Dominique. I'm the publishing officer for the brand new Scottish Universities Press. Today, I want to provide a quick overview of how 18 academic libraries across Scotland are setting up a fully open access and not-for-profit publishing press from scratch. The press is very much a collaborative effort. It's being developed through SCURL, which is the Scottish Confederation of University and Research Libraries. SCURL is a membership body that has been supporting collaborative initiatives across Scotland's academic libraries for over 30 years now. So the idea to start an open access press really stemmed from a problem that was shared by our members. That was the need for a more straightforward and cost-effective route to open access publishing that's going to satisfy funder requirements, ref requirements, and align to the principles of Plan S. And as librarians, we were seeing how complex and costly publishing open access with commercial publishers could be. So in 2019, SCURL commissioned research to test the proof of concept for a collaborative universities press. The report was very favourable towards the prospect, and so discussions began on taking forward the findings. As mentioned, we have 18 members involved, with the exception of Aberdeen, who you may have heard are relaunching Aberdeen University Press as an open access press. So our members range from the larger research-intensive institutions to smaller, more specialist institutions. So there was an understanding there was going to be considerable variation in the publishing needs of the different members. So the press has developed an open and inclusive management structure so that all participants have equal voice in decision-making. The management board of the press was formed in late 2021 with a representative from each participating library, and they will provide the strategic direction for the press. We are currently running on a 2-year pilot phase, although we are looking beyond this already. The press has a 2-year commitment from the participating libraries to contribute to the running costs via a subscription. The initial scope of the press in this first phase will be publishing monographs in any subject by academics at our institutions. They're going to be published open access with a CC BY license on our platform. We'll also provide a paid-for print-on-demand option. We're planning to expand to other content such as journals and textbooks in the future, as well as opening out potentially to academics without the SCURL network. So how will we do this as a bunch of librarians? Well, the key to this project is the ability to utilise the existing skills and networks within our institutions. We're able to turn inwards wherever possible. So, for example, our platform will be hosted by the University of Edinburgh Library using the Open Monograph Press software. And that's actually already an existing SCURL shared service route that's available to all SCURL institutions already. And this meant our platform could be set up really quickly and at low cost. I mentioned the management board. We also now have our editorial board in place. Who'll be responsible for developing the peer review process, reviewing proposals, advocating for the press, and encouraging submissions. We decided from the outset we wanted to be as open and transparent as possible. So our call for editorial board members was opened up to all academics at our institutions, promoted out via the libraries. It was important that our editorial board had a good coverage of disciplines and types of institution, as well as broad geographical coverage across Scotland. We included 2 specific places for early career researchers, giving them experience of working on the board. And we also have 2 external members who will provide publishing and policy expertise. So we have our editorial board in place, our platform ready. The next step now is to confirm our peer review policy, our content strategy, and we do hope to open our first call for proposals in early November. So lastly, I'll quickly talk about the opportunities we have as a not-for-profit collaborative press. We have an ability here to get a handle on the true costs of digital publishing and to keep those costs as low as possible for our institutions. Our not-for-profit status frees us from some of the constraints faced by commercial publishers that cause restrictions on publishing longer or more specialist content. We're also aiming to provide guidance and support to early career researchers at our institutions who may be publishing their first monograph. As a library-led press, we can be responsive to all policy changes and to the changing higher education environment, adapting the press to meet the needs of our institutions quite quickly. And librarians are also skilled in discoverability, metadata, and preservation, so we can take advantage of that too. Finally, we have an opportunity to be as open as possible in everything we do. For example, we do plan to be completely transparent with our business model, and we're currently working on that at the moment. So please do keep an eye on our Twitter account and our website for further announcements. We'll soon be adding more information about our publishing processes and also information about our first call for proposals. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Dominique. All right, let's pause for a few questions. We've got a series for Astrid, first of all. So Astrid, if you don't mind coming back on camera, I'll ask you all three of the questions, including the one that you've covered already. So we've got, could you tell us what DTD you use? And then the next question is whether the tool works for non-English text, non-Latin fonts. And finally, could more be done for efficient XML on the MS side?
Mm-hmm. So the first question that I already answered, it is just XML that comes out as an export format. And then the second question, does it work for non-English text and non-Latin fonts? It will work for some non-Latin fonts. I would have to look it up. Definitely Greek, because we have a lot of formulae in publications in chemistry or physics, and that was really important that we have some non-Latin scripts, and it works for German and English.
Great,
and then the
you.
third one, what was it?
Could more be done for efficient XML on the MS Word side? Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm getting this question right, but I think it's what you can do with the Word manuscript so that the XML extraction works well. The best thing to do would be to have a really nicely semantically, a semantic word. So for example, you have the option in Word to have a title and then actually basically tell Word, okay, this is the title, this is the subtitle, rather than just like making it bold, the letters, and then bigger font. And so
putting some markup into the file.
A lot of markup. And what Word offers as a markup you should use so that it's easier for the software to extract.
Great, thank you. Don't go far, but we're going to go to Dominique. So Dominique, a question for you is about who makes up your editorial board. Are they academics? Are you focused on certain disciplines? And I'll come back to the other question after that.
Yeah, sure. So we, our editorial board is made up of academics at our participating institutions. So the call for editorial board members was opened up, and it was specifically for academics at our member institutions, as well as 2 external members. But you can see the full list on our website. We've got a list of all of the members there, so you can have a look. We aren't focused on certain disciplines. We decided to start with monographs, but not limit that to any particular discipline, although we do think that it will be arts, humanities and social sciences that may be more interested in publishing a monograph to start with. Yeah.
Okay, great. And are you charging BPCs?
So to start with, we the running costs are covered. So we have the so salary costs, the branding, the platform costs, that's all covered by the library subscriptions. The only costs that we don't have covered at the moment are the very specific title level costs, such as the copy editing and the typesetting. So we are going to have to charge for those services, but it is going to be a very low cost, and we're looking at ways that we can work that into our business model at the moment. Unfortunately, we don't have all the answers yet, but we don't like the word book processing charge. Always kind of brings up quite negative connotations, obviously. So we're looking at ways that we can cover the costs that aren't covered by our subscription at the moment. But we'll have more information about that on our website as soon as it's all worked out.
Great, thank you. Okay, Rebecca, because I'm going to jump to you and ask you from Jadranka, how reliable are data availability statements in the humanities? She cites studies in biomedicine show that 95% of authors still aren't ready to share their research data.
Sure, I guess it depends on how you define reliability. So I suppose I'm thinking of it as being like a true reflection of what underpinned the study. So in that sense, I think we're kind of lucky on our platforms because our editorial team are very engaged with the process. So I'm confident that when you read a data availability statement on Routledge Open Research, it should be reflection, because we'll have a bit of a back and forth with the authors to say, like, did you really not have any data? Are you sure? What about this part of the study? Was that not generating something? But I agree, like across the board, I mean, what you'll usually see is data available on request. Is that reliable? I don't know, maybe not. So yeah, I take the point. Like, I don't think they are always a true reflection of the study. I think on Routledge, I'm hoping they'll be relatively comprehensive. Yeah.
Thank you. Astrid, let's go back to you and ask about Kyle's question. So fantastic, much needed software, hooray. Kyle wonders if it's possible to have multiple templates. There's a use case for OJF sites with multiple journals and their own design.
Yes, so that's basically what one of our project partners does, the University and State Library of Saxony-Anhalt. They also have various monographs and journals, and you can basically have as many templates as you want, and then during the export process, you tick a box which one you would like. We have a generic journal template as a predefined template and a generic monograph template, and then some specific templates for our two project partners. That is my institution and the University and State Library of Saxony-Anhalt. And if you want to add your own templates, then that's you can add as many as you like, basically.
Great, great, thank you. Okay, we're gonna carry on. So Dominique, if you could please answer the question in the Q&A about your business model, I'd appreciate it. So we're gonna go back to the presentations, and we have next Matthias, then Malavika, and then Elizabeth. So cross your fingers while I share my screen. Did I do it? Please tell me I'm sharing the right screen and not something about my summer holiday.
It's good, Jen.
Okay, thank you. All right, over to you, Matthias. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Matthias. I'm a research support librarian at the University of Cambridge, and I want to briefly talk about a project that we ran at the university, which actually touches on some of the themes that have already come up in the conference so far. So there was a feeling among those of us working on research support and scholarly communications in the university library system that we were struggling to fully engage with humanities researchers, particularly on open research, and to really figure out what support they needed. Possibly partly because of the language issues, which we already discussed in the panel on humanities yesterday, and the way the whole conversation on open research was being framed. There was a sense that maybe was perceived as being mainly about STEM and the way scholarly communication works in STEM, so humanities researchers didn't feel that it was super relevant to them. So we formed a working group, and yeah, I'm sorry, I can see that my poster isn't on the screen. I don't know how well you will be able to read it anyway, but we'll come to that. So anyway, we formed a working group which consisted of librarians and others working in scholarly communications and some researchers from across the humanities. And I should add here that we're talking about the traditional humanities rather than, for instance, digital humanities, which wasn't the focus of the project. And the researchers involved were not entirely agnostic about open research, to use a phrase that we heard yesterday. So they had some interest in or experience of at least open access publishing, but they weren't completely sort of familiar with the issues as some of us might be. As a starting point to frame the discussion, we used Leroux's 8 Pillars of Open Science, which will hopefully be familiar to many of you. And then over the course of 5 or 6 meetings, we kind of really took a deep dive into all of those topics from the perspective of humanities researchers. For instance, one thing we did was we met with representatives from Cambridge University Press and open book publishers to discuss the general move towards more open access journals and the future of the academic monograph, which was something that has come up, of course, as well. So in the end, we kind of came up with a report from the working group based around 5 adapted pillars, which you should be able to see on the poster, sort of. And I'm mainly here to advertise that. And I should give full credit here to Emma Gilby, who is professor of early modern French literature and she chaired the working group and was the lead author of the report. And the poster, whenever you look at it, can only give a glimpse of some of the topics discussed and raised. They actually correspond a lot to a lot of the themes that have been talked about at the conference. So, for example, around prestige in publishing and the assessment of non-traditional research outputs and impact, and so on. The one thing I wanted to briefly highlight that came up was the importance of the concept of care in two senses. And one was the care for the work done by everyone other than the author involved in producing a finished sort of humanities journal article and monograph. So the editors, the copy editors, the proofreaders, and so on. And there was a strong feeling that their work should be properly acknowledged and rewarded, which was also kind of allied to some apprehension about how this work would be funded in a fully open access world, which again goes back to some of the discussions on the humanities panel from yesterday. And we occasionally hear from voices in STEM areas that journals are obsolete, but that very clearly doesn't seem to be the case in the humanities. And the other aspect of care relates to enabling a diversity of voices and epistemologies and so on. So some of the issues that Anasuya had raised during the opening roundtable, rather than reinforcing existing structures. And there's the hope that a world of open research will enable us to work towards that. So obviously I can't go into much more detail in this lightning talk. So if you're interested, then please do read the report. The link is on the poster and I'll try and put in the chat in a minute when I'm done. It was obviously written in the specific institutional context about what support we can provide to researchers in Cambridge who want to work in an open way, but hopefully it will have some relevance beyond that. So as I say, I would encourage you to read that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Jen, before we move forward, could we share the next poster on the screen? We only seem to see the list of posters earlier, Jennifer.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, that'd be great. And it's Malavika next.
Okay, so I'm screen sharing and you can see the SOC PC slide.
Correct.
I believe we can. Thank you.
Okay, over to you, Malavika.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. A warm hello to everyone. Thank you so much for a few minutes to talk about society publishers. So the Society Publishers Coalition is a group of like-minded society publishers who publish as part of charitable objectives and reinvest any surplus from publishing into the subject areas served by the society. We call ourselves the SOC PC. SOC PC members want to make a transition to open scholarship, and we want to do this in a fair and sustainable way for everyone. This is our mission. 39 society publishers in this coalition reported last year that they were taking specific action to transform to open access, while 6 members of the SOC PC have already flipped their whole journal portfolios to open access. Now, our flipped members have used a whole range of models, right from per article charges and APCs to subscribe to open, to Diamond Open Access. Yesterday, we had an excellent Subscribe to Open panel chaired by Rod Cookson of IWA Publishing, and IWA is in the SOC PC. The opening keynote of the OASPA conference, we had Sudeep Parekh from AAAS, and AAAS is in the SOC PC. Looking at the combined data across all SOC PC members, in 2018, these society publishers published nearly 300,000 articles. And in the same year, so in 2018, the SOC PC members spent about £1.4 billion on charitable activities supporting the various subject areas. Now, speaking of subject areas, these are represented by SOC PC members, and they range from religious studies to chemistry, from geology to economics, from mathematics to microbiology. And with such a diverse range of disciplines, we see also a diverse range of challenges in transitioning to open access. Some of these challenges are shared by all SOC PC members, but others are more specific to subgroups or subject areas. This makes the networking and information sharing within the SOC-PC really rich and practical for SOC-PC members. At the moment, 72% have a commercial publishing partner and 28% are self-publishing. Again, this difference really helps SOC-PC be a forum where members learn from each other and are able to inspire and spark new thinking. Our author base is truly global, and we believe that authors must be able to publish regardless of funding status or ability to pay. We want to embrace open access in this way, and we have come together in this spirit to explore the challenges in a very frank and honest way, asking tough questions and then developing solutions. One example of this is a set of common principles permitting unlimited numbers of open access papers to be published under transformative agreements. This is a lesser known approach to transformative agreements being done mostly by small self-publishing SOC-PC members that have been taking these steps to move away from APC type thinking in their deals. And so in 2022, there are 20 SOC-PC members sort of living by these uncapped open access principles. There are no charges to become a SOC-PC member, and we're happy to extend our membership to any like-minded society publisher who agrees with our mission. And hot off the press, we have a new member joining this morning. So we are now 121 society publishers, and we're also keen to engage with any other groups, institutions, funders, policymakers, anyone who shares our enthusiasm for openness in scholarship. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Malavika. Okay, we're going to have one more and then we'll take a break. So Elizabeth is next, and perhaps also with Neil.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. My name is Neil. I'm the head of publisher relations at Knowledge Unlatched. It's 4:35 here in the morning, so apologies if I say something confusing. I'm presenting this poster on behalf of myself and my co-author, Elizabeth Demers, who is editorial director at University of Michigan Press, but she's traveling and can't join today, so I'm the one. I suspect that University of Michigan Press doesn't require much explanation, but if you're unfamiliar with Knowledge Unlatched or KU, you can think of us as an open access crowdfunder that connects publishers and institutions, and especially in the underserved social sciences and humanities. So this poster is about a pilot project that UMP, so University of Michigan Press, and KU partnered on to provide more OA books publishing opportunities for contingent faculty, unaffiliated and independent scholars, emeritus faculty, and early career researchers such as PhD candidates. These are people who tend to have little or no access to institutional OA books publishing funds. You're all in a range of different countries in the call today, but many of you may recognize a trend of increasing part or full-time non-tenure track appointments that enjoy very little institutional support. And that's a challenge in developed and emerging economies. And as an example, in the US, where I am, non-tenure track positions account for over 70% of all instructional staff appointments in US higher education. And that's just staggering, right? And these are people who basically carry higher education on their shoulders, but receive very little institutional support for sharing their own possible research as open access books, if there are any costs associated at all. So our partner, University of Michigan Press, asked authors in this pilot if they had access to subvention funds that could help make their books open access. And 8 of the 10 authors had no means of accessing funds for paying something like a $5,000 subvention or books processing charge. And a 9th author stressed that it would take funding away from the research itself. So we want researchers who have insufficient funding for open access books publishing to achieve greater equity in open access publishing. And this model consists of at least 30% of these types of authors. And if we're successful, we intend to expand that. Charles Watkinson, who is the associate University Librarian for Publishing and Director at University of Michigan Press, I think framed this mission nicely. And I quote him, "We tend to think of equity and inclusion in open access from an end user perspective, where readers and researchers engage in vigorous debate with OA material. This model allows us to broaden access for scholars to participate in this global conversation at very early stages." Now, for some of the mechanics of how it works, this pilot collection is on the very current topic of peace and justice. But the topic, of course, can differ for other collections. The pledging period runs from April to December 2022, and the initiative seeks financial support for the publication of 10 titles in 2023. It needs 20 supporting institutions, and we're currently at 4 supporters. Now, 20%, 4 versus 20, sounds low, but in our experience, it's not unusual to track most of the support in the 4th quarter. Still, we don't want to be complacent, so this poster is also a call for more engagement. We'd like to iterate on the model with publishers and institutions, and so we're happy to discuss experiences and ideas. So please contact us if you're interested in this particular type of challenge. Thank you.
Neil, thanks so much. And thanks for getting up early. We appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
It's great to be able to connect you with folks for whom this is the peak of day. So thank you. So Malavika and Dominique, you're not getting off that easily. I want to try and explore Katrina's question while we've got a little bit of time. So what I'm kind of hearing from Katrina is that, you know, Dominique's got a community that's unifying over in one way, and Malavika's got a community that's unifying in a different way. And I think Katrina's question is about getting societies to reach around the world and create a kind of a globally agnostic, discipline-based network. So Malavika, could you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that? And Dominique, would love to hear yours as well.
Sure. So the nice thing was, Katrina, I saw your question and I'd already been making furious notes while Dominique was talking, going, what can the SOC-PC learn? Who in the SOC-PC might be interested? So, you know, these are sorts of issues that we do grapple with. We do, you know, when I presented saying we explore tough questions, we really do. You know, should societies move from a partner publisher to a self-publisher? Should a society move from a self-publishing to partner publish in order to transition? And also, is there room for federation and things like that? You know, these are themes we do explore. I think the thing to recognize is the spectrum that makes up the SOC-PC membership. And we have from the very tiny to the very huge. And so some societies will always want their own identity and having their operations separately. And I think with Dominique's experience, we already see, like in Scotland, we've got Edinburgh saying, no, we want to stand outside this and do our own thing. And I think, you know, that probably would be the experience we would see if we had this discussion within the SOC-PC. But of course, there could be benefits for some, and there are overlapping, you know, fringes of subject areas that overlap as well within the SOC-PC. So certainly learning to be had and discussions to be had here.
Thanks, Malavika. Dominique, did you have any reactions to this question?
Yeah, so it's just that the inner workings of the scholarly societies are not within my area of expertise, so I find it quite difficult to kind of answer that question. I think the importance here is having a shared vision. That's something that we found when we were getting all of our institutions to collaborate on this, is this kind of shared problem, and getting people on board was the first stage. And getting people to contribute financially as well. It's not as easy as it seemed. So there is a lot of work that goes into that. Like you were saying, Aberdeen have decided to start their own, or relaunch their own university press and not become involved with that, but we're still working on them. We're hoping maybe we can convince them to still come on board and do both things, because I think a varied landscape is really important. So yeah, I think we could probably provide some information about how we got, you know, 18 different libraries to collaborate on them on a project. But as I say, I'm not an expert on scholarly societies and how they work, so I can't really say anything about that side of it, I'm afraid.
Well, let me probe at it just a little bit more, because Katrina is, and because it is an interesting question. And what if we reframe it in terms of like a global discipline focused press? So it's country agnostic, it's institution agnostic. It's really about, this is the global press for, you know, molecular biology. So, you know, Matthias and Neil, by virtue of your university press connections, and because I can see you, I wonder what your reactions might be as well.
Sorry, I was busy typing up an answer, so you caught me a bit off guard there. Sorry.
That's because you're typing without permission. You're supposed to take your questions verbally. Let's, Matthias, you're unmuting, and then Neil will come back to that question you're responding to. It's a good one.
Yeah, sorry, I don't actually have any university press connections as such, because obviously Cambridge University Press is different from what we're trying to do in the library. So yeah, I don't think I can really speak to that, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Are we hearing from one another that, you know, we're really focused on localized challenges, you know, achieving open access for university press, for a society, for a university library? It's all, you know, significant challenge. So what Katrina's question, it makes me wonder is, you know, are there opportunities to reach outside those localities and create bridges? But anyway, that's me monologuing. I'll stop there. So, so Neil, what was that question that came up in chat? Could you take it verbally for us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is this the same as KU Open, or are they different services?
Yeah, so we have something we call KU Open Services, which is more like a hosting dissemination service where you pay a one-time fee. We upload the book and we ensure that it's disseminated to various open access hosting platforms, and we generate usage reports and so on. So that's different. This is this initiative, KU Open Opportunities, right, is a crowdfunding model focused on trying to drive higher participation of these researchers who don't have access to, you know, various types of subvention that could pay for book publishing charges. So two different things.
Okay, great. Thank you. We better motor on then. We've got 3 more presentations. We've got Marcel, and then Stephanie, and then Anna. So somebody please let me know that I'm going to share the right screen. So you should see Marcel's poster. Have I done it?
Yes, I think that's correct.
Fabulous. All right, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here, especially after we heard so much about equitable and inclusive publishing over the past 2 days. I think it fits quite in what I was talking about. As many of you know, community-driven Diamond OA journal publishing as a widely non-profit and value-based part of the OA ecosystem has significantly gained traction over the past couple of years. But as recent studies have shown, for example, the Diamond OA journal studies from 2021, community-driven Diamond OA journals lack long-term funding. They struggle with setting up efficient workflows for production and circulation, and they require backing from institutions and infrastructures alike. Adding to that, the gifted labor, to borrow a term from Yannicka Dema and Samuel Moore, is not recognized as such, and many dedicated networking initiatives seem to lose momentum. We at the Alexander von Humboldt Institute for Internet and Society started addressing these issues in early 2021, and with generous funding from the German Ministry of Education and Research, brought together stakeholders from libraries, journals, scholarly societies, research funding and research performing organizations, and several dialogue formats. Our goal was to continue the conversation and raise consciousness for the precarious state many community-driven Diamond OA formats find themselves in the German-speaking market or segment. But we also wanted to assess the specific demands of these communities in Germany and contribute to make their individual publishing efforts more resilient in times of budget cuts and a looming platformization of science. The poster I brought for you today introduces the result of this community process. Cambium is a resource that will provide practical and strategic knowledge for community-driven Diamond OA publishing in Germany. The practical support will comprise hands-on publication manuals, peer-to-peer consulting, and recorded webinars, which we develop in close collaboration with the Diamond OA community. For this, we already set up 6 working groups with experts from community of practice, reflecting the needs and addressing burning questions. We're roughly 50 or 55 people working collaboratively on 6 working groups. The themes we'd like to address are, for instance, technology and infrastructure, which open source tools are useful, rights and licenses, what is a fair and legally sound setup, management and workflows, how can we reduce costs through workflow management, communication and marketing, how do we increase the reputation of our journals, business models, how do we make our journal more resilient, and lastly, governance and legal status, how do we foster and protect our journal. Beside these working groups, we will conduct a Delphi study and several stakeholder meetings to base our strategic support on solid research. That includes then a strategy paper on trends and a policy paper on robust support for community-driven publishing, both published in early 2023, if everything goes as planned. With these resources, we hope to empower the small and big, the established and new, the local and international community-driven Diamond OA journals, and contribute at least a tiny bit towards the path of an equitable publishing system. If you want to become part of the working groups or participate in our empirical research or have any question or remark, please get in touch here or via email. I'm quite looking forward to it. Thank you.
Marcel, thank you so much. All right, let's go to Stephanie.
Hi. All right, thanks. I'm happy to introduce the publishing workflows based on open peer review that we've been developing at Science Open. In the early days of open access, a main argument by opponents was that financial pressures of a pay per article system would encourage journals to take a lax view of peer review and publish inferior research to increase income. Open access publishers experimented early on with open peer review to prove the rigor of the peer review process. Fast forward to 2022, where preprints are now an important part of a faster research cycle. Preprints allow researchers to quickly and openly disseminate their research, garner feedback from the community, and get credit for discoveries earlier. Publishers are increasingly harnessing this energy to create new infrastructure and products to support open review of preprints and build that into new journals. From the start, Science Open has offered an open peer review infrastructure for all of the now 80 million records for articles, books, and chapters, including over 2 million preprints on the platform. The Science Open business model is based on providing services to publishers and institutions embedded within this discovery environment, including full open access hosting and publishing solutions. With this poster, I would like to present the open peer review workflow developed by Science Open together with UCL Press and offered as part of our publishing package. I would like to highlight several journals running fully open peer review on the platform, including UCL Open Environment and the Journal of Systems Thinking. A new EU platform for drug repurposing will also develop a similar workflow. Other projects such as Unisaw Archive are experimenting with a single preprint server for multiple journals managed by the University of South Africa Press and coupling it with a copy editing offer. Science Open has created an off-the-rack open peer review workflow for new journals and ones looking to go beyond open access to include a wider array of open science components. In this workflow, the author submits a manuscript to a particular journal or collection of journals. The manuscript will be vetted by the editorial team, and if it's within scope and of reasonable quality, it will be posted as a preprint and open for review. The editor, authors, and journal community may invite reviewers. On the Science Open platform, the review process is open to any user with 5 publications in their ORCID profile, but reviewers invited by the editor are automatically given reviewer status. The editor will track this progress in a private peer review dashboard. And when an open review is submitted, the editor and author will be informed and the author can directly respond to the review. On the review page, the status of the inviter, so author or editor, and any conflicts of interest are stated. If the editor recommends revision, the author can submit a new version of the preprint. The preprint version and review history are transparently displayed along with the full text, and flags on the preprint show where it is in the workflow, so under review or revision or in production. The editor-in-chief makes the final decision on whether an article is ready for publication, and if it's accepted, the article will be professionally typeset and published. Throughout the process, we ensure that the preprint and review are discoverable with Crossref DOIs, integration with ORCID, long-term archiving, Google meta tags, and more. Yeah, so Science Open has been developing tools and workflows for open peer review together with the open access community for nearly 10 years. And we look forward to sharing our expertise. So get in touch if you have any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, Anna is going to take us across the finish line.
Yes, hello everyone, and thanks for sticking till the end. I'm Anna. I'm a postdoctoral researcher at the Erlangen-Nürnberg University in Germany. And my poster shows some of the findings from a 2-year project I'm working on with the University Library Duisburg-Essen and the IST Hochschule for Management. So the project is called Aurora, which can be translated to authors and legal certainty for open access. And this project focuses specifically on open access publishing in the arts and humanities in Germany. And we have already heard quite a bit about the challenges of the humanities over the duration of this conference. So we focused on the humanities because open access publishing is not as common yet, and especially authors lack knowledge and therefore confidence when it comes to the different publishing models and choices that there are, especially with regards to contractual agreements and licenses. So the reason why the humanities in Germany are slower to adopt open access as compared to, for example, STEM subjects is that monographs and anthologies are very important still, and so is the printed book when it comes to academic career progression. German is also quite important still as a publishing language, and humanities disciplines as such are mostly quite small as well. So the publishing landscape in the German humanities consists mostly of small to medium-sized publishing houses who often cater for a specific discipline. And this means that the reputation based on tradition plays a huge role when choosing a publishing house in the humanities. So authors publish for small communities, and therefore open access has not developed as quickly when compared to other subject areas. And this also means that how things are done with regards to open access publishing, for example, in STEM, can't be applied to the humanities. And to shed a bit more light onto the complex needs, wants, and challenges of the various actors involved in the open access process, we brought the stakeholders together to talk about those challenges, worries, interests, wishes, and also possible solutions to problems in the open access publishing process. So on the poster, you can see the groups that we identified and that took part in the workshops last year. And some stakeholders occupy more than just one role in this network. So in the next step, then, we collected necessary and possible services in the publishing process and discussed quality criteria for scientific publications. So not only the technical standards, but also scientific criteria. And in another workshop in spring this year, we brought all of this together. And these findings are now with a law firm, which will create modular model contracts for open access publication. And these contract templates are aimed at turning open access publishing into a simpler and more transparent process. It will also help to clearly state agreements and services in those model contracts. So by including all these diverse stakeholders here on the poster, we made sure that the model contracts reflect as many perspectives as possible of all actors in the publishing process. So I don't have time to go into too much detail about the findings of the stakeholder workshops. We have a website if you want to know more. And I also would hear from you. I would love to hear from you if you have more insights into stakeholder structures in other countries. So in general, we found that there is a complex network with stakeholders and they have all very complex interests. The financing of open access seems to be one of the most pressing issues for the stakeholders, as well as providing legal advice for authors. So authors don't receive this enough from the publishing houses, and therefore they seek support from their university libraries, but the libraries don't really feel comfortable with this role and provide advice only with legal reservations. And this is where the model templates will hopefully come in handy. And I stop here.
Great, thank you so much, Anna. Where is my camera? There it is. Thanks so much, everyone. We better wrap up here and take a little break. So thank you to the most recent speakers who've answered the questions in the Q&A. I appreciate that. Stephanie, you've got another one. And also thanks for all the comments in the chat and all of the responses. So let's keep the discussion moving. Carry on and chat with one another if you'd like. We're going to take a little break, 15 minutes, and then come back to a new session on Has Open Science Failed to Influence Research Assessment? So as ever, you can log off and come back, or you can just hang out here and have a great afternoon or evening or morning, and I'll see you back here in a few hours. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. You were all exactly 4 minutes. Really appreciate it. See you later.